This particular technique that I've told you today will solve all your vocabulary problems. Each and every one of your vocabulary problems will be solved. Why? Because this allows you to remember the word and use it whenever the time. Because in today's video, we are going to discuss a particular technique that can help you improve your vocabulary within no time. Because for speaking, vocabulary is important. Our end goal to learn English is to speak fluent English, isn't it? And in order to speak English, vocabulary is important. Building a good base for vocabulary and then improving that vocabulary is absolutely important. Because when you speak, you use words. So vocabulary is important for any language learning. And today I have this awesome technique through which you can improve your vocabulary, that too with your day-to-day routine. It's very easy to follow. So are you all ready for this? Now coming back to today's lesson, that is how to improve your vocabulary. Well, this is one of the fastest ways and a very well-proven technique to improve your vocabulary. That is called active usage and recall. Active usage and recall. Now, this is a technique that can help you improve your English, improve your vocabulary, and you'll see a significant difference. First of all, let me tell you a particular situation regarding vocabulary. When you're learning vocabulary, when you're trying to improve it, there are going to be certain situations, problems that you'll face. Now, this technique is the answer to all those problems. For example, let's understand this particular situation so that you know how to apply it, how to use it, and how to get the maximum benefit out of this particular technique. So listen to this particular situation. Now, you've learned a word. Say you've learned 10 words in a week. You've learned 10 words in a week. Now, after learning those 10 words, you want to speak them. But whenever you go and speak them out, whenever you want to speak these particular words, what happens is you're not able to speak them. You know the meaning. It's there with you. It's not like you don't know the meaning. Obviously, you know the meaning. It's there with you. But then still it's like you're not able to use it at that particular situation, the real-life situation. That means you're not able to use the particular word in real time when the situation arises where you have to speak it. The problem is in speaking because at times you're not sure about the usage. You know the meaning, you know the word, but you're not sure how to use it in a particular sentence or how to use it while speaking. Because you might not have enough confidence or you might have not enough practice to use it in a particular sentence. That's why you're not able to do it. You're not able to use it at that particular time. But if you listen to the word somewhere, if you listen to it or you read it somewhere, you interact with that particular word, you'll say, "Oh, I've just learned this word. I know the meaning. I know this word. This word is familiar." But when it comes to the usage of the word for speaking, at the time, the problem arises. Now, how to deal with this problem? How to use all the words that you're learning whenever you're speaking English so that you become fluent and you become more active while speaking English, so that your English sounds advanced. So this is the particular technique for you. This technique is the answer, which is known as active usage and recall, the particular technique of active usage and recall. Basically, this particular technique is divided into two parts. Part 1, active usage. Part 2, active recall. Let's focus on the part 1 of this particular technique, that is the active usage. So when I talk about active usage, there is something involved in the process so that you are comfortable in using the particular word. Now, the word active, if you've watched my videos on active listening, you would know what is active listening. Active listening is to actively be involved in the process of listening. Whatever you're listening to, you're absolutely attentive. You're deliberately trying to listen to things. You're making efforts to listen to it completely. Similarly, active usage. So the word active here means that you are an active participant in this particular process, that you are trying to make those efforts from your side, that you are trying to use it. Usage means to use the particular word that you're learning. So active usage means deliberately finding situations in which you are able to use the word. And active usage means not only just while you're practicing your English speaking skills. No. But in the real-time situation, that is the situations when you're having conversations with your friends, colleagues, or maybe the situations in which you have to speak in English. The problem is that you're not able to use those words in the real-time situation, but active usage allows you to use that particular word in the real-time situation. So, active usage. Now, how to do it? How to take up this active usage? The very first step of active usage is when you learn a particular word, you learn the meaning of the word, you look at the example sentences, you create some sentences of your own. Now, when you create those sentences, it's just not that you've created the sentences and that's it. The work is done. Now you've created the sentences. Work is done. No, that's just a foundation. You lay the particular foundation to the process of active usage. Now this is the beginning of the process, just the beginning. What you've done is you've kick-started the process of active usage. When you're framing those sentences of your own, when you frame those sentences and then speak them out loud, what you're doing is you're conditioning your brain and your mouth muscles to use the particular word in a sentence. You're developing confidence to use that particular word in sentence and in conversations, not just your speaking practice. No, but in the conversations. That is the real-life situations. So you'll be speaking that word out comfortably in the real-time situation. Real-time when you are required to speak in English. There are going to be various situations where you have to make conversation with your friends, colleagues, or maybe you're required to speak in English in a particular situation. And at that time, you'll be able to use the word comfortably. That is what we have to achieve, and active usage helps us to do that. Now that you have covered the first step of active usage, that is to take the word, learn the meaning, and then frame your own sentences. What you have to do is you have to start finding the opportunities in which you can use the particular word actively. Find the opportunities where you will use this particular word, where you are required to use the particular word. Find opportunities and speak it. That is active usage, that you are actively using it in your day-to-day situations. And this will help you become fluent in English, because now you're conscious about using that particular word. What happens at times is you're not even conscious about using the words that we are learning, but here, you are developing that consciousness to use that particular word whenever the situation arises. So use the word. This is active usage. Now, let's move on to the part 2 of this particular technique. Now, part 2 of this particular technique is active recall. Active recall. Now, what is recall? Recall is basically, let me give you an example first. For example, you are talking to somebody, and a person asks you, "What were you wearing yesterday?" You'll take some time to think about it to retrieve that information. Okay, I was wearing a yellow dress yesterday, or maybe, I was wearing a blue shirt yesterday. So that particular information that you're retrieving, that is called recalling. That is, you're retrieving something from your memory. You're retrieving information from your memory. Active recall is something that helps you retain the language that you're learning. Whatever you're learning, it should be there with you. If you don't practice it, it'll be lost. So the words that you're learning, if you take up the technique of active recall with the active usage, when you combine these two techniques together, what happens is it becomes a long-term fixed word in your memory. That means it becomes permanent in your memory, which is comfortable for you to think about and then speak. That's what we are achieving, a kind of, you can say, comfortably thinking in English. That means that word is there in your memory, and when you want to think about it, basically when you want to retrieve it, you'll be able to do it comfortably within no time. That is what we want to achieve. Now, active recall. How to practice it. What exactly active recall does to you. Active recall is basically intentionally recalling the word from your memory. It's not about you having to go look at the meaning again in the dictionary. No, you're testing yourself. You're testing your memory. Because you can go and check out the meaning once again, but the thing is, will it help you at the time of speaking? Because when you have to speak it in real time, you have to retrieve it from your memory. That's what you do, don't you? Every one of us, for example, I'm speaking something, I'm speaking these words out. Why? Because it's there with me. I have so much practice of speaking these words. They are always there with me. It's there in my memory. It's like I've created a brain right in English. So that's what you're doing. You are creating that memory bank of words in English that whenever you want to retrieve it, you're able to retrieve it quickly. For that, we are practicing active recall. It's kind of a practice of that particular real-life situation that you'll be faced with. For example, you can practice active recall. You've learned 10 words in a week. Now, on Sunday, let's take Sunday, you're sitting there and you're trying to actively recall how many words did you learn. You can make a list of those words. You can list them down. If you're listing them down, that means you remember all the words that you learned. What you can do is you can create some example sentences once again using all those words. Do not write the meaning. Create example sentences, and then later on you can check whether the sentences that you've created match the particular meaning or not. Because when you use a particular word in a sentence, you use it according to its meaning. This is a process of active recall, basically a method to actively recall the word. So method number 1 is to create a list of the words that you've learned. After a week, within a week, you might have learned 15 words. You might have learned 7 words. You might have learned 10 words according to your own capacity and the time that you're getting to learn English. You might have given time according to your particular schedule. What you can do is, with all the words that you've learned, list them down, write them down, create new example sentences, and then cross-check whether it's correct or not, whether you're using them according to the meaning or not. If you're doing it correctly, bravo! Congratulations! You're able to retain the word for a longer time. This is one way to fix it in your memory and to make this word comfortable for usage when you want to speak it. Method number 2. Well, method number 2 to practice the particular technique of active recall is that when you're learning a word, you're creating some example sentences. What you have to do is take a separate sheet of paper and write down those sentences and leave a blank where the word is supposed to be used. Leave a blank. For example, let's take the word famished. You can say, she could not wait for the pizza to arrive because she was a blank. She was famished, right? So leave a blank there. Do not write the word. Now create a particular worksheet like this. At the end of the week, what you can do is you can take that particular worksheet and solve it. That means through those particular sentences, you're trying to recall the words corresponding to the meaning from your memory. It's like you're retrieving those words from your memory. This is going to help you remember the words, fix them in your memory, and then use them later on. This will help you improve your vocabulary because half of the time we face this particular problem of not improving the vocabulary because we lose 80% of the words we are learning. They are lost, totally lost, because we never use them. Then we have to start this cycle all over again of learning words, practicing them, and then again we stop using them. We do not practice active usage, active recall, and then they are lost from our memory. So if we start using this particular technique of active usage and active recall, the words that we're learning will stay with us. Our English will improve much faster than before. So your efforts will yield good results. Practice active usage and active recall. This is the technique for you. That was the technique of active usage and active recall. This particular technique that I've told you today will solve all your vocabulary problems. Each and every one of your vocabulary problems will be solved. Why? Because this allows you to remember the word and use it whenever the time arises correctly. Use the word correctly in real-time conversations. So take up the technique of active usage and active recall and improve your vocabulary for speaking fluent English. Today's lesson is meant to show you ways of increasing your vocabulary. I know some of the other teachers on English with Joseph have done these lessons. I just want to throw my 2 cents in. If you know what that means, it means I want to give my own piece of advice. I have few ideas for you. We're going to start with these. We'll look at a few others, more practical ones as well. Increase vocabulary in 2 ways. First way to increase vocabulary is reading. The most important thing that you can do to increase your vocabulary is read. Read a lot. What should you read? Anything and everything. But the most important thing is read what you are interested in, okay? If you like sports, read a sports magazine. If you like movies, read a movie magazine. Even better, read the script of the movie. If the movie is based on a novel, read the novel. For example, recently the movie Life of Pi was very famous in the theaters. It's based on a novel. Read the novel. It's a pretty good book. My favorite movie, Shawshank Redemption, based on a novel by Stephen King, read it. Best way to increase your vocabulary. Second way to increase vocabulary is writing. Also, don't just learn new words and try to remember them. Write. Write a lot. Use the words you're learning, right? Every time you learn a new word, you should have a notebook with you all the time anyway. Write the word in a sentence, but not just in any sentence. Make sure that the sentence clearly shows that you know the meaning of the word. So for example, I know everybody knows this word, but beautiful. Everybody knows this word, but let's say it's a new word for you. Don't write the sky is beautiful. It doesn't tell me anything about the word beautiful. The sky is also blue. Does beautiful mean blue? No. Make sure you're using something. I love to see a beautiful sky that has pretty clouds and a sunshine and a nice color, a nice shade of blue because it makes me feel happy. Not the best example, it's a very long sentence, but you get my idea. Now, again, coming back to that notebook, always have a notebook with you, always have a pen with you, and don't limit yourself to one new word. When you learn a new word, Make sure you learn different forms of the same word, okay? So, for example, the word beautiful, let's say this is a new word for you, you learned the word beautiful. Put it in your adjective column, it's an adjective, that's what you want. But why not learn the other forms? For example, what is the adverb form of beautiful? I think most of you know it, it's beautifully. So you have now two new words. What is the noun form of beautiful? It's beauty. You now have three new words in your vocabulary. Isn't there a verb form of beautiful? Yes. As a matter of fact, there is. Beautify means to make beautiful. You now have four new words. Think of other words. Beautician. A beautician is a person who works in making people more beautiful. She does facials and manicures and pedicures and wax and whatever else these beauticians do. Anyways, try to find other forms. Learn many words instead of just one word. Okay, now, some people like to study roots and suffixes and prefixes. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of this recommendation, but first let me explain what a root is. For example, you have the root ject. So you learn inject, eject, object, subject. All the different words that come from the root. So many people only study the word, or the root, ject, and think that that will help them understand all the words with this root. It's a good idea if you have the patience. I think most people who are studying English don't like to study roots because it's like studying another language. If it works for you, do it. If it doesn't, don't. Okay. And now another thing you can do. Listen. Listen to any spoken English that you can. I think some of you may have heard of TED.com. It's a good website. People give talks and lectures about different topics. Listen. Listen carefully. Anytime you hear a word that you don't recognize, write it down. If you don't know the spelling, no problem. Write it phonetically. Write the word just like it sounds. Then, if you have access to a transcript, means all the words that were spoken, written down, check the transcript and find your word. If you can't, if you don't have a transcript, go to a dictionary. Now, some of you have asked me to recommend a dictionary. Very simple. They're online. You can get the paper one or the online one, Merriam-Webster, mw.com, American English Oxford Dictionaries.com, British English. Okay. Now, I know I've seen a lot of students use like their electronic dictionaries. They go from like English to Korean, English to Japanese, English to Spanish. Don't do that anymore, okay? English to English. This way you're learning more words as you're learning one word. I don't know this word. I look at the definition. In the definition I might be learning other words. Okay? You will maximize how many words you learn by using an English to English dictionary. Now, again about those electronic dictionaries. Sometimes, like especially when people are trying to write, they will write a sentence in their native language and then press translate on this dictionary and get a sentence in English. Now, I've seen sentences that I knew came from the electronic dictionary because they made no sense, okay? They were terrible, terrible sentences. Don't do that, okay? The people who made these dictionaries might not know English very well. Keep that in mind, okay? So, these are some ideas. Now I'm going to tell you what I think are the best ideas to increase your vocabulary. Okay, so now we're going to look on a couple of other ways you can increase your vocabulary. These are very effective, but it takes a lot of patience, a lot of perseverance. You have to try hard. You have to keep doing it because vocabulary, not so easy, right? Okay, so first, we're going to start with cards. You get yourself a stack of cards, maybe this big. Not too big because you're going to want to carry them in your pocket. Take them with you everywhere you go, okay? On one side of the cards, you're going to write words. 4, maybe 5 words that are new words for you. You're going to write sentences on the back, on the other side of the card. You're going to use these words in sentences so you have the clearer meaning. Or you can write the meaning of the word, the dictionary meaning. Both okay? Now, you're going to split your cards into 3 piles, okay? You're going to have the pile of cards of words that you know, words you're comfortable with. Eventually, you will have a pile like this, words that you're very comfortable with. You know them very well. You don't need to look at these cards very often, okay? Now, before I continue, where do you get these words? Get them from a TOEFL site, or an IELTS site, or an SAT site, or an SAT book, for example. They have lists of words that you need to learn. Put all these words on cards, split them up like this. You know these words very well, you don't need to look at. These words you're almost sure, or at least you recognize these words. You've seen them before. You've heard them before. You can guess what they mean, maybe in context. So, you're not sure? Put them in this pile. This pile you will look at all the time. And then in the last pile, you put words that you really don't know, okay? This is the pile you will look at the most. You will study these words. As they become more familiar, you move them to this pile. This pile you study also very regularly. This pile is the one you put in your pocket and take with you when you go outside. On the bus, you can look at your words, long line at the bank, pull out your cards, and look at the words, okay? When this word becomes very comfortable for you, when you know what this word means, you move it over to this pile and leave it at home, okay? Don't know almost. Sure. No study, move, study, move. Put aside. Once in a while, look at them just to make sure you remember, because if you never look at these again, you will forget them. Okay? So, it's all the time. Continual. You have to practice, 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 practice. Vocabulary is a lot of memorization. That's the way it is. Now, here's another thing you can do, okay? This is the last one I'll show you today. What you do is you make yourself groups of words, okay? You can do it many ways. You can make yourself a little, like a little brainstorm. For example, if we're looking at roots, you write the root in here, ject, and then you write reject, inject, eject, subject, etc., or in a list, however way works for you. So 3 ways that I will recommend to group words. Again, if you like the roots, group them like that. Eject, reject, object, subject, inject. Now, the reason you're going to make groups is because maybe you don't remember object or object, remember noun or verb, but you remember ject. You remember this group. You sort of remember what ject means, so you can apply it to object. Ject is like push in most contexts. Object is push away, refuse, okay? So if you don't remember the word, hopefully you will remember the idea of the group, and then that will remind you what the word means, okay? Another group you can use is similar meanings, so synonyms. Words that have similar meanings or a similar function, okay? So, for example, I'm going to look at this function: increase, extend, expand, accelerate, intensify, reinforce. All of these have some sort, in their meaning, have some sort of connection to increase. Extend, make longer, increase length or time, duration. Expand, increase the size or scope. Accelerate, increase the speed. Intensify, increase intensity. Reinforce, increase strength. So, maybe you see the word reinforce, you're reading something. You see the word reinforce, you're not exactly sure what it means, but you remember the group it was in. The group was the increase group, so reinforce means increase, plus the context of the sentence you saw it in will help you understand it means increase in strength or in, sometimes it could be increase in number, like number of soldiers, reinforce the position. The last group is theme, for example. Let's say for today the theme is technology, okay? So you write words that have to do with technology: obsolete, state-of-the-art, update, downgrade, cutting edge. All these words we can talk about like computer softwares or computers. Obsolete, old, not useful anymore, nobody uses this anymore. Windows XP, maybe not completely obsolete, but almost obsolete. Hardly anybody uses it anymore. State-of-the-art means the newest, cutting edge, the newest, the most modern, the most advanced you can get. Update, to make newer. Downgrade, to make less. For example, I have Windows 8, I don't like it. I want to downgrade to Windows 7, but can't do it, Windows 8 won't let me. But anyway, so you have a theme, you have a function, you have the root. Learn in chunks. If you don't remember one word, you'll remember the group. It will help you understand the word you're looking at, okay? Thanks for joining me today on English. If you found this lesson helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to stay updated with all our latest videos. Keep practicing, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Happy learning, everyone!